Listen. Long before the empire, before the gold, before anyone had drawn a map with Mali on it, a hunter walked into the court of Ner Magan, king of a small country, and told him a thing he did not want to hear. A woman will come to you. She will be ugly. You will not want her. Marry her anyway, because the son she gives you will be the greatest king this land will ever carry. Then the hunter left, the way they do. And in the country of Do, there was a buffalo killing men, killing them for years. And two hunters went out and did what nobody had done. And when the king of Do offered them their reward, any woman in the kingdom, they did not take the beauty. They took Sogolon of the buffalo, hunchbacked, hard-faced, and marked all over her back with the sign of what she was. They brought her to Ner Magan, and the king remembered what the hunter had said. So he married the woman nobody wanted, and the court laughed. And the first wife did not laugh at all. The son came. They called him Sundiata, and he did not walk. 1 year, 3, 5, 7 years, and the boy who was promised the world sat on the ground and dragged himself across it with his arms, while children who were born after him ran past. Understand what that meant in that house. There was another wife, Sasuma Berete, and she had a son with 2 good legs. Every day Sundiata did not stand was a day her boy got closer to the throne, and she made sure everyone saw it. She had a word for Sogolon. She had a word for the boy. She had a word for the prophecy. And then one day Sogolon went to her for baobab leaves for the pot, the smallest thing a woman can ask another woman for. And Sasuma looked at her and said, "I have baobab leaves. My son fetched them for me. My son, who walks." Sogolon came home and wept. And her son, 7 years old, sitting on the floor of his mother's house, heard her. He said, "Mother, stop crying." He said, "Go and tell the smiths, I want an iron bar." Then brought it. 6 men brought it, because one could not carry it, a bar of solid iron, thick as a man's arm. And the boy who had never stood put his hands on it. He pulled, and the iron bent. It bent, and it kept bending, and it came up in his hands until it stood over him in an arc, and what he was holding was not a bar anymore. It had taken the form of a bow. And Balafasake, who was watching, opened his mouth and sang, and what came out of him was the hymn to the bow, which nobody had ever sung before, because until that moment, there had been nothing to sing it about. Sundiata was standing, and he said, "Mother, do you want the leaves, or do you want the tree?" And Sogolon, who had been laughed at in front of the whole town over a handful of leaves, looked at her son and said, "I want the tree, and its roots at my feet." So he walked out of the house, past the people who had come to watch, past the ones who had laughed. He walked to the baobab, that tree, the one she had begged from, and he put his arms around it. And he tore it out of the ground. He carried it back. He set it down outside his mother's door, and he said, "Mother, from today, the women of this town come to you for their leaves." And every one of them came. Sasuma Berete had lost, and she knew it, and she did what people do when they lose. She made the country too dangerous to stay in. So Sogolon took her children and went. And what followed were the years nobody sings about. Jadeba, Tabon, Ouagadougou, Mema, court after court. A queen and her children eating another king's food, sleeping in another king's house, being useful, being quiet, being grateful. Years of it. And in Mema, the boy who tore up the baobab grew into a soldier, and then into a good soldier, and then into the kind of soldier a king does not want to lose. He was given command. He was given honor. He could have stayed. He could have had a life there. And back home, while he was learning to be a man in another man's country, something was coming out of the west. Sumaoro Kante, king of Soso. A blacksmith king out of a people of blacksmiths, and he had taken the Mandé apart piece by piece while Sundiata was away. They said he could not be killed. Not that he was hard to kill, that he could not be. Iron would not stay in him. Men who struck him watched their weapons come away. And there was a room in his fortress at Soso that only one outsider ever saw and lived and told it. Bala Fasake, taken there as a captive. Walls hung with human skin, 9 skulls, and every one of them had been a king. A great snake in a jar, 3 owls in the dark, and a balafon that no hand but Sumaoro's had ever touched. Bala Fasake played it, and the sorcerer king came in. From 100 miles away he came in, because he felt it. And he found the griot sitting at his instrument, and he did not kill him. He kept him. The Mandé went looking for its king. They sent men out in every direction, 9 of them, hunting through kingdom after kingdom for a boy nobody had seen in years. And they found him in Mima, grown, armed, and serving another crown. They said, "The country is being eaten, come home." And Sogalan, who carried him for 7 years on the ground and through 4 countries after that, did not come home. She died in Mima, on the night her son was told to go. He buried his mother in a foreign country. Then he turned around and went back for his own. He did not come back alone. Tabon Wana came, the men of Ouagadougou came, the smiths came, the hunters came, and every small king who had been waiting for somebody else to stand up first, they came too. And Fakoli came, Sumaoro's own nephew, his own war leader, who had already broken with him and was already fighting him, and who brought his people over. They met Soso in the field, and they hurt them. And then they met Soso again. And there, in front of an army, Sundiata put an arrow into Sumaoro Kouyaté and watched it come off him, like a stone off a wall. You cannot kill him. Every man in that field went to sleep that night, knowing his weapon was decoration. They had beaten Soso in the field, and they could not beat the man. There was somebody inside. Years before, when Sundiata was a boy on the floor, and Sasuma's son sat on the throne, that son, Dankaran Tuman, had gone looking for a way to buy peace from Sumaoro. And what he sent him was his own sister, Nana Triban, Sasuma Bedete's daughter, given away by her own brother to a man who could not be killed, to keep him quiet a little longer. She had been in that house ever since, and she was not idle in it. She and Bala Fasake, the griot, still held, still playing that balafon, found each other in there. And between them, they went to work on the one thing Sumaoro had that nobody else had, his certainty. She made him proud. She made him talk. And a man who cannot be killed, talking to a woman he thinks is his, tells her exactly what would kill him. Then the two of them ran. They came into Sundiata's camp out of the dark, the griot and the king's sister, and she stood in front of her brother's army and told them the secret of Sumaoro Kouyaté. Kirina. They came down the valley at dawn, and Soso came up to meet them, and the two of them closed like 2 hands, spears into hide, iron on iron, men going down in the dust, and men going over them. Fakoli tearing his uncle's army apart, the smiths who used to be Soso's turned, and Sundiata riding the length of it, the man they said would never walk, on a horse, in front of everybody. He drew, the same iron. He loosed, it struck. And the thing that made Sumaoro Kouyaté a god went out of him like a light. He did not fall. He ran. The sorcerer king of Soso ran from a field for the first time in his life, and he went up into the hills at Kulikoro, and the hills closed behind him, and no one ever saw him again. Now, here is where a story like this usually ends. The hero wins, the hero is crowned, the drums go, and the griot takes his fee. Watch what he does instead. He called them, every clan, every king, every man who had fought, and some who had not, out to a clearing on the bare rock, at Kurukan Fuga. And he did not tell them what he was going to take. He told them what he was not. Who sits where? Who speaks first? Which families are owed what? Who may never be enslaved? How a stranger is treated? How the land is held? What a king may not do to the people who made him a king. He put a fence around his own power, out loud, in front of the men it would be used on. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody needed to. It went into the griots, and the griots gave it to their sons, and their sons gave it to theirs, and it came down mouth after mouth after mouth, and it landed in front of you tonight. What he founded grew into an empire, and it outlasted him by generations. He was Mari Jata. Long after, in another language, a stranger wrote that name down and stopped to say what it meant. Jata, a lion. The lion of Mali, who spent 7 years on the ground.